Hello, welcome to the Jean Monnet Center of Excellence, EUPOLTRANS at Erasmus Plus project at Caucasus University. This project focuses on transposing EU laws into Georgian legislation with experts in different areas. I'm Aleksandre, professor at Caucasus University and researcher at the Jean Monnet Center of Excellence. Thank you, Nina, for agreeing to participate in the policy
Thank you for inviting me.
Component of our project called expert interviews, and for sharing your expertise on EU environmental policy. Today we have a chance to speak with Nina, who is consultant at Environmental and Sustainability International Management Standards, having years of experience in policy shaping at different levels. Thank you once again very much for being able to go through the questions that are so important for this time.
Thank you, Alex, for inviting me and for very interesting questions.
Thank you. So I will start one by one. Could you describe how the EU is working with international partners to meet environmental challenges?
Of course. Thank you. It's a very important question, actually. The European Union is deeply engaged in addressing environmental issues at the international level, as you know. Their strategy is multi-layered, starting with joining with countries around the world under agreements like the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, also known as UNFCCC, and the Convention of Biological Diversity, known as CBD, as well as obviously supporting the Paris Agreement. These agreements are not just formalities. The EU actively participates in the continuous negotiation processes, setting targets and working out the details of implementation. For example, the EU has been a driving force in the global effort to cut down greenhouse gas emissions. It's not just about setting ambitious goals for themselves, but also about helping other nations to do the same by providing financial support and sharing technology. When it comes to biodiversity, the EU's work through the CBD is a good example of its commitment. This is increasingly important as we face unprecedented rates of biodiversity loss due to factors like habitat destruction, pollution, and climate change. The EU has been working on creating a network of protected areas known as Natura 2000, which is one of the cornerstones of the EU's nature conservation policy.
Yeah, thank you. That's really, I mean, the case that EU is working quite a lot to have all this Natura in place to increase conservation and biodiversity value for some areas, which is really important for biodiversity aims.
Definitely.
Yeah, I will move to another question, which is what kind of bilateral cooperation does the EU engage in for environmental issues?
The EU has a comprehensive approach of bilateral cooperation, which is all about working directly with individual countries to address their unique environmental challenges. This cooperation can take many forms depending on what's needed. For instance, the EU might provide technical support to help country develop its capacity to manage protected natural areas or to implement sustainable farming practices that both preserve biodiversity and boost local economy. Financial assistance is another key aspect. Through various funding mechanisms, the EU supports environmental projects around the world. This might include investing in renewable energy infrastructure to reduce the country's carbon footprint or funding research into climate change adaptation strategies. The EU has historically collaborated with Georgia on various environmental and climate-related initiatives. This cooperation is part of the broader Eastern Partnership framework, which aims to integrate Eastern European countries more closely with the EU.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it is really like a network. I mean, when many different countries are involved to face this type of problems that exists for each country, I guess, like climate change, and there should be like mechanism in place to find solutions and also implement activities on site to bring some tangible results. Definitely. Thank you, Nina. Can you discuss the cooperation between the EU and Georgia in addressing the environmental challenges?
Absolutely. Georgia's environmental challenges are significant, partly due to its vulnerability to climate change. That's where the EU support becomes very important. The EU is not only a funding source, but also a provider of technical expertise and capacity building to help Georgia implement key environmental reforms. For instance, one of the key initiatives supported by the EU is the development of Georgia's national climate change adaptation strategy. Renewable energy development is another part of our cooperation. The EU is aiding Georgia in expanding its renewable energy capabilities and enhancing energy efficiency, which is key to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and tackling climate change head on. Biodiversity protection is another area where the EU is deeply involved, particularly through the support and implementation of directives like the Habitat Directive. This piece of EU legislation is key to the conservation of nature, which with the EU guidance, Georgia is working to apply similar principles, aiming to safeguard its own unique ecosystem and promote biodiversity. Furthermore, the EU is assisting Georgia in the implementation of the Water Framework Directive, an EU policy to ensure water conservation and quality. It established a framework for the management, protection, and improvement of all water resources, aiming for long-term sustainable water usage by addressing river basin management, reducing water pollution, and etc.
Yeah, I will add on that because I mean, European Union and Georgia have a strong and growing partnership, I guess, focused on various areas,
Exactly.
including addressing environmental challenges. And as you also said, like this cooperation is driven by EU's Green Deal initiative, which aims for climate neutrality by 2050, and Georgia's own aspiration for sustainable development and alignment with European environmental standards is like a key aspect, I guess, to have like climate change mitigations that includes emission reduction or forest management, also adaptation to climate change, or like waste management, water resource management, the ones that you also raised up, or biodiversity conservation. And
Exactly.
you also know better, I mean, because of your background, how important it is to have like policy and institutional cooperation, which is
And
uh, harmonized.
legislation, yes,
Yeah,
relevant legislation, exactly.
with EU environmental legislation and also capacity building because this is really new for us. I mean, countries are making step forwards, but like Georgian environmental institutions have some capacity, and also that will be really great to have like capacity building. And I guess like as a country, it's really very important. Thank you for your response to this one. So I will move to another question. What do you think, what are the main challenges and opportunities for Georgia in aligning with environmental I mean, with EU in terms of environmental legislation and policies?
Oh, that's really important question as well because there are many challenges, unfortunately. But I would like to name few of them. Financial and administrative investment is a primary issue. Adopting EU environmental standards often means that Georgia must allocate resources towards new technology, infrastructure, or even skilled personnel. There's a clear need for expertise development, to effectively enforce EU environmental laws, comprehensive training for government officials, industry stakeholders, and NGOs is essential. Ensuring they have the necessary skills and knowledge to adopt all those legislation. Enhancing public awareness is very important as well. Success in meeting EU standards will also demand on public support, which requires educational initiatives and stakeholder engagement to underline the value of environmental protection. But I want to also speak about the opportunities because, as we know, every challenge has its opportunities. So when we talk about the opportunities, strategy to shift towards more advanced and eco-friendly industrial and infrastructural practices can lead to more robust and sustainable economic growth. The EU is actively supporting this transition through targeted financial aid and sharing of technical expertise. By aligning with EU regulations, Georgia is going to see substantial environmental improvements. These enhancements are directly tied to public health benefits and the potential for economic expansion, as a cleaner environment technically attracts more investment and more tourism. And for Georgia businesses, compliance with EU standards simplifies entry into the European market, which is, as we know, the biggest market in the world. Also, fostering trade relations, economic growth, and job creation. This alignment also bolsters investor confidence, potentially leading to increased foreign direct investment. The roadmap for this alignment is detailed in EU-Georgia Association Agreement, which encompasses specific environmental commitments. While the Georgian government has initiated this legislative alignment, ongoing efforts are required to sustain this momentum. Continued investments in environmental protection and leveraging EU cooperation for resource access remain very important. The private sector and civil society have significant role in this process. For example, business investment in sustainable technologies and practices can drive innovation, while NGOs and community groups can improve public engagement and advocate for adherence to EU environmental standards. In essence, this aligned effort across government sectors, businesses, and civil society is fundamental to realizing the full spectrum of benefits that come with aligning Georgia's environmental policies with the EU framework.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky one because when you speak about challenges, you don't know like which one to list it first. But to sum up what you said, I mean, it was really to the point because I mean, you can identify challenges in aligning Georgian environmental legislation with EU. Like for example, resource limitation to be as a challenge because implementing EU standards often requires significant investment, all type of like financial or human type investment, also like administrative capacity, like Georgia's environmental institutions may require strengthening to effectively enforce and monitor also compliance with EU standards. As you mentioned, public awareness and participation. I think
I would also mention that actually media also can play very important and significant role in this. And as a challenge, I would also agree that probably there also biggest challenge because of the small economy. Businesses are really not enthusiastic about allocating the new sources for aligning with the legislation, with the EU legislation. So I think this is for, in my experience, these are the biggest challenges So
Yeah, and I
sorry.
mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean that was really like great points. And with all these
So,
challenges, you remind me that there are always like opportunities. For example, for
yes,
business, it's good to enhance trade and investment opportunities because like
exactly. That's
harmonization.
also where the main how should I say, main driving force when you
Mhm.
want to negotiate with them regarding EU legislation, that this will open doors to the biggest economy in the biggest market in the world. So I agree with you. This is also a really important aspect of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like win-win situation because I mean, when you're harmonizing with EU environmental policies, that can facilitate trade and also attract foreign investment,
Yes,
and particularly for companies, they're able to like seek sustainable supply chain and access a European market, right? And also you can like boost reputation and international
exactly.
relations, or like modernize and knowledge. I have knowledge transfer, which is like a great opportunity.
Yes, and long-term sustainability is also very important when in this modern turbulent world, the
Yeah.
sense of stability and sustainability. Yeah,
Uh,
great.
Thank you for the really great insights. I'll move to another question. What are the most important EU environmental policy initiatives for Georgia in the coming years?
Oh, difficult question, but I will try to answer it anyway. To start with, there is the implementation of the environmental commitments within the EU-Georgia Association Agreement. This is crucial as it will boost our effort to safeguard natural habitats, reduce pollution, and improve the air quality in our cities and towns, which is also very important. The European Green Deal is a central initiative that seeks to address climate change and environmental degradation. It has the overarching goal of transforming the EU into resource efficient and competitive economy with no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050. As you mentioned, Georgia is actively evaluating and adapting its policies to resonate with the deal's objectives, especially achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. There is also Team Europe's initiatives that promise to bring new opportunities to our region, particularly in environmental protection and waste management services. This will be also instrumental in making our municipalities more sustainable, especially when we are talking about waste management. Is also, I'm sure you are aware. And European Union is assisting Georgia in reducing its carbon impact by investing in key sectors. This includes enhancing our waste and water management, promoting climate smart agriculture, and pursuing sustainable rural development, and obviously energy efficiency, as we already mentioned.
Mhm. Yeah, indeed. And with
Mhm.
that, I have one question in mind. Could you speak to the importance of environmental education and public awareness in meeting the EU's environmental objectives?
Should we? Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I mean, the ones that you mentioned, just
Uh-huh.
raised another
Mhm.
question, how important is the
Mhm.
public awareness and
Yes.
environmental education?
Mhm. Okay. Yes, actually, public environment, public awareness, and public education is key because again, when public is aware how important this is, it becomes a driving force for the public services, also for the private businesses to how should I say, they motivate them to act more efficiently, to be more efficient with allocating new resources, to be because at the end, public opinion is always important for the governmental organization, for non-governmental society, and also for private businesses. So when you educate the public how important it is for their health, for their well-being, for their prosperity, it becomes a driving force. So it's very important. So I would say it's actually the key for the success.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think also like in educational activities and public awareness is like crucial allies in achieving EU's objectives, right? Because you need to like empower knowledge, have sparking actions, and equip society as well, and business, and as you said, like different institutions, individuals with the knowledge and understanding of ecological challenges and sustainable solutions, because there's quite a complex topics like climate change, biodiversity law, or like biodiversity loss and resource depletion. So education should be on site to increase awareness about this really crucial
Exactly.
aspects.
And I would say it's from the schools and I don't know, it can be, it's very important for every stakeholder, I would say, to raise awareness and to educate people from the childhood. So it's very important. I agree totally. And actually, I also participate to educate the local businesses, SMEs, and also non-governmental organizations to raise awareness how important and how it is beneficial for them to be more educated in these initiatives and in these important issues. So yes,
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, sure. It is just like investing in environmental education and public awareness campaign is not merely an expense, it's like strategic investment.
Absolutely, which in long term will be very beneficial, and it's the key to the sustainable development and also key to stability. Again, as I mentioned, in this turbulent and uncertain world.
Yeah, sure. So I think we partially covered this one, but I will still ask, how does this translate to specific goals like reducing emissions or improving air quality?
Also, how does it? So people who understand the severity of climate change tend to adopt lifestyle changes that reduce their carbon footprint. As for air quality, educating the population, as already mentioned several times, educating the population about pollution sources and mitigation strategies can trigger behaviors that collectively improve air quality. For example, choosing public transport over personal vehicles, and when we give people information about the circular economy, for example, it will also help them to make informed consumer choices. The public will value product design for longevity and recyclability, pushing them towards more sustainable consumption patterns. For instance, the EU is already supporting Georgia in this regard for Erasmus Plus, which facilitates educational exchange on the environmental subjects. Which is, again, we already mentioned how important it is.
Yeah, I mean, with this type of little steps, I mean, people awareness can be somehow. I mean, you're trying to make people's mind or behavior more sustainable, and it should not be really like stressing, right? It should be like small steps and coming natural. It should not be like artificial and making someone to do something without giving the full conscience why
And
it's needed.
actually, EU directives are perfectly designed to exactly support that, what you are saying. So to do it step by step, with no hard pressure, really painful change, without really painful changes. So yeah.
Indeed. So what steps can Georgia take to reinforce enforcement of its environmental laws?
To start, Georgia needs to fortify the industrial capacity of its environmental regulations. This means not just increasing the number of qualified inspectors, but also equipping them with the latest technology for effective monitoring, obviously. And also, implementing risk-based inspections can optimize the resources, focusing on areas with the highest potential for environmental harm.
Yeah. And how can public access to information and financial penalties support this enforcement?
I think transparency is key here. By granting the public easy access to information on environmental violations and the corresponding enforcement actions, awareness is raised and the accountability is enforced. Financial penalties and other enforcement mechanisms serve as a deterrent, ensuring the violations are taken seriously and compliance is non-negotiable. Lastly, what role does public participation play? And are there any specific?
Yeah, I mean that's the right one. What you're like saying, and also like asking if like public participation plays a role or not. So I think it is really vital, and the community should be encouraged to report right violation and stay informed on the progress of enforcement actions, because in other case it will be really difficult to ensure like transparency, and also when you're like developing a national environmental enforcement plan and providing specialized training for inspectors and prosecutors, it will definitely enhance overall efficiency.
And it's very good for trust as well, or trust from the public when you are implementing the really important legislation. This is really important. Transparency is important also for the trust, for the public trust, which is also crucial, I think.
Yeah, public participation always additional trust, because they also feel like commitment to be part of the process ongoing, and not like the outcast. They are excluded. That's right. What recommendations do you have for Georgia to enhance its environmental institutions and capacities?
Investing in the policymaking system is important for Georgia. It needs adequate funding to recruit skilled personnel and secure state-of-the-art equipment. Furthermore, there are necessity for enhanced coordination between the various environmental agencies to prevent duplication of efforts and improve efficiency. Georgia also needs to improve the coordination and cooperation between its different environmental agencies. Right now, there are a lot of different environmental agencies with overlapping responsibilities. This can lead to wasted effort and efficiency and even money, which is really not easy to allocate, as we already mentioned. The Georgian government should take steps to make sure that this won't happen.
Okay, sure. So, could you elaborate on the importance of decentralized decision making and civil society involvement? How important it is?
Yes, it's actually crucial. Decentralization is critical. By empowering local communities to influence decisions impacting their environment, we ensure that those decisions are more responsive to local needs. Also, strengthening civil society's role in environmental governance can lead to more attentive monitoring and enforcement of regulations, as well as heightened public engagement with environmental issues.
Yeah. Sure, that's this is, I guess, what we heard quite a lot from other parties,
Yes,
that
yes,
participation
exactly.
is really important.
Local communities know better what needs to be done, so we definitely need to communicate to give them more power.
Yeah.
Yes.
So finally, what specific measures
Mhm.
can Georgia take to further strengthen environmental frameworks? Because we mentioned environmental frameworks before as well, but I mean, if you could
Yes.
sum up like what are specific measures or recommendations that you can give?
I know the focus should be on capacity building and institutional efficiency, as we mentioned, because institutional efficiency is very important. Also, this starts with targeting investment in the environmental sector and enhance the regulatory bodies' operational capabilities. In addition, fostering a collaborative environment among the various environmental agencies can significantly reduce redundancy and increase the efficiency of environmental management. Engaging local communities, as you already mentioned, in environmental decision making, another crucial step. It ensures that policies are attuned to the unique ecological and social landscape of the region they affect. And meanwhile, supporting civil society's involvement can also amplify efforts in overseeing environmental actions and educating the public. Also, overarching goal is the creating a robust environmental governance structure that is well equipped, well coordinated, and backed by the active participation of both local stakeholders and civil society.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the main key point was not to have like miscommunication for sure between all parties, because this is the road that everyone somehow should take a step and make do his own part. So it was really interesting, Nina. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and expertise on this topic, which will be really insightful for everyone who is interested in this topic. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for really important and interesting questions, Alex. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.